Bob Cooney from the Philadelphia Daily News. He writes at Philly.com and inside the actual newspaper, Pete Thompson. They still make them, you know.
I know. Yep. I purchased them.
There you go. Bob Cooney writes what the DeMarcus Cousins trade means to the Sixers, Bob. And many people, they're almost not even talking about this trade so much as the league seems to be looking at the third team who had nothing to do with the deal and their role in what it means for them and their future.
Yeah, well, it kind of helps you out a little bit if you have an unprotected pick in a couple of years from said team, and they look like they're going into tank mode. So it bodes well for the Sixers. If Sacramento falls below them in the standings this year, the Sixers have the right to swap with them after the draft lottery if Sacramento's pick is higher than the Sixers. So, yeah, all that happened bodes well for the Sixers. And then, the fact that Okafor was brought up, that a trade might have been similar with the Pelicans, I think Sacramento got killed on this trade, and I don't think it would have been a good trade for the Sixers to give Okafor for that either.
Right. The follow-up is, the Sixers were rumored to be in a Pelicans deal. Now, there has been a lot of different versions of that deal, but any of the versions stick out to you as why didn't Colangelo pull the trigger on that deal, or did you think he did a smart thing by not making a deal with New Orleans?
Yeah, I think it's good to wait. I've been a proponent of that. From the get-go. What New Orleans was offering, that kind of seems to me you could get that at any time. So I'm not saying Jahlil Okafor is going to bring you something fantastic. Maybe he will, but we see where it is right now. But I think it could always be here. It could maybe get better somehow. Maybe a sign and trade, maybe on draft night. And so that's why I think waiting it out, seeing what you have. If you're not happy with what you're getting in return, basically you were trading Jahlil Okafor in this trade scenario for a pick that would be after number 20, probably somewhere around 22, 23, somewhere in that vicinity, and then a second rounder. I really think you can do that pretty much at any time. Wait until draft night and see when things get antsy and teams get antsy. You might be able to make a little bit of a better move.
Right, yeah. The suggestion there is you can get that at any point. You can get the number 20 pick or 25. You don't need to do that now. The question is, will his value change at all, Bob? Is this who he is? He's going to be a guy that's going to get you a mid to late first-round pick.
Yeah, I guess that's what it looks like. And you have 26 games. What's going to happen in these 26 games? Probably not a lot to up his ante. Joel Embiid is going to hope to play more than the organization would like him to play more than half of those games. So that doesn't bode well for Jahlil Okafor getting on the floor. Maybe in the few games that Embiid doesn't play, or maybe if Embiid doesn't play a lot of games, he's out there. But everybody knows what Jahlil Okafor is right now. He's I think, a wonderfully gifted offensive player for a guy his size. And then a lot of deficiencies in other areas of his game, which it just takes one GM to think that they can turn him around defensively and rebounding the basketball. And if you can make the right deal with that guy, then maybe it'll help the Sixers a little bit.
So, Bob, is there still a strong possibility that he is moved by Thursday, or do you not see a match out there anymore for Okafor?
I wouldn't say strong, Pete, but you never know because there's always a team that wants to do something, and now I'm starting to hear Indiana might be in the mix, and that was a team that you didn't hear before because they're looking to get Paul George some help there. So you never know. If I was a betting man, I would say that no. I would say that Okafor is still here after the trade deadline. But like I said, it only takes one person to be intrigued by him, and if that's the case and the Sixers like what they're getting, then absolutely something could happen by then.
Bob Cooney, Philadelphia Daily News with us. The Sixers kind of an unintended winner in this trade here. Now, Bob, you look at the Sacramento Kings and what they've done. Have they kind of tapped out? Like, do you look at them as a team that has admitted to themselves, look, we had this asset, Boogie Cousins. We had him for X amount of years. It was better for us to get pennies on the dollar than to continue going forward with him because it's a sad statement that a guy of that ilk had never been to the playoffs. You get your hands on that level of player, and then you still can't make the playoffs. I think that's kind of an indictment on how difficult it is to build a winner in this league.
Yeah, no question. You're talking probably, a top 7 player in this league in Boogie Cousins. So you think you have that, and that's the diagram that everybody looks at is you need a superstar to build with and then try to get another one and build around. Well, they've had him, and they haven't been able to do it. You're exactly right. So, yeah, tapped out, absolutely. And now they're talking that they want to get rid of some more salaries and move some more players even after this trade. So, like I said at the beginning, guys, it only bodes well for the 76ers when you own a swap with them this year and you own their unprotected pick in 2019. They could still be one of the bottom teams, probably will be one of the bottom teams in the NBA come 2019. So, that all just bodes well for the Sixers. So if Sacramento wants to go and tank and do a total rebuild, if you're a Sixers fan, be all for it.
Bob, I want to touch back on Okafor for a second. Could you talk about it only takes one guy? Could Magic Johnson be that guy who would come and get Okafor from the Sixers? He did express his desire to have the Lakers draft him a couple of years ago, gave him a positive and glowing resume before that draft.
Yeah, they're in an interesting position, Pete. It's where do you go from here? You have like the Lou Williams and the Nick Youngs of the world that kind of litter that roster, and
sounds familiar.
And some bad salaries, and also that's kind of, is it a cleanup? Is it a clean out? And you hold on to your young stars, and then you try to build for the future. If the Sixers are going to get rid of an Okafor, what do they have to give you back? And you're gonna want a younger star. You're not gonna want one of these older guys or anything like that. So that's an interesting position. And you're right. Magic Johnson put it out on Twitter an awful lot how much he liked Jahlil Okafor. And now that he's cleaning house and kind of taking care of things there, if I'm Bryan Colangelo, I might give a congratulatory call and say, oh, by the way, is there any way we could maybe help you out a little bit and see what Magic has to say?
Yeah, Colangelo is an interesting guy in all of this because, he's obviously got his finger on the trigger button come Thursday. And are you assuming that they will be very active, or are they going to just kind of say, you know what, we're going to do our moves in the offseason?
No, I think he'll be very, very active. I know he's been active over the last few days, over the last week or so, I should say. They were very, very close to unloading Jahlil Okafor to the Portland Trailblazers the night that they kept him out of the lineup that Saturday night. They thought a deal was pretty much done, and then Denver kind of came in and got a deal done with Portland that negated what the Sixers had been working on. I know that Colangelo's listening and making phone calls and trying to see what he has out there, possibly. It's also intriguing that you have Nerlens Noel here, who's going to be a restricted free agent after this season. That's a decision you have to make also. If teams are going to drive his money up because there's not a lot of big men in this draft. It's mostly a guard draft, a shooting draft. So there's not many big free agents out there either, big men free agents. So Nerlens Noel's price could go up a little bit. Colangelo's going to have to decide, do I want to match the price that teams are going to offer him? Do I maybe look to unload him so I can get something for him instead of just losing him for nothing? So there's a lot of decisions and a lot of work that's going on right now with Bryan Colangelo. He'll be busy up until Thursday, whether it shows with trades being done by then. We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah,
and you mentioned Indiana. There's a report out there that they're interested in Okafor. He's attached to everybody. Indiana's tough because you're looking at they're willing to give you a first-round pick, but that's a mid-rounder too. I mean, so there's another spot where the Sixers might say that's not worth it for us.
Yeah, and that's the position, that's the luxury of the position that Bryan Colangelo's in right now, is that he can say no to things that might look really good because of all the other assets that he still has at his disposal. He still could have 2 picks this year in like the top 7. If that Lakers pick conveys this year, and it's like a number 4 or number 5, and then the Sixers have either their own pick or the swap with Sacramento, which will probably be top 8. They could still have that. They could have a great pick in 2019. It's amazing all the things that are surrounding and laid out in front of Bryan Colangelo, and it does afford him the luxury to be very particular with what he wants to do. And right now, that involves moving Jahlil Okafor.
All right, we'll keep our eye on that. Bob Cooney is on Twitter at BobCooney76. Read this piece today on how the Sixers benefit from the deal over the All-Star break. Bob, always a pleasure, pal.
All right, guys, have a good day. Thanks for having me.